Now, there is a cleaner way to write this code on line 3. All these concatenations are kind of ugly. They're getting in the way. Later in the course, I'll show you how to use template literals to clean up this code. For now, don't worry about it. Let's look at another example of a function. So this function we have here is performing a task. So performing a task. Its task is to display something on the console. But sometimes our functions might calculate something. So here is an example of a function that calculates a value. So again, function. Let's call this function square. This function should take a parameter. Let's call that number. Now we need to calculate the square of that number. That is number times number. Just basic math, right? Now we need to return this value to whoever is calling this function. For that, we use the return keyword. That's another reserved keyword, so you cannot have a variable called return, okay? Now, instead of calling the greet function, let's call the square function. So square, we pass 2. Now this returns a value, so we can use that value to initialize a variable. For example, we can declare another variable called number and set it to a square of 2. And then we can display that on the console. Save the changes, so we get 4. Now, in this particular example, we don't necessarily have to declare a separate variable if all we want to do is to display the square of 2 on the console. We can exclude this variable declaration and simply pass square of 2 to console.log. So when the JavaScript engine executes this code, first it's going to call this function, it would get a value and then pass that value to console.log. Let's save the changes and look, we still get 4. Now I have a question for you. How many function calls do you think we have in this code? We have 2 function calls. Square of 2 is one function call. Let me delete this temporarily. But console.log is also another function call, right? Because here we have parentheses. So we're calling the log function, which is defined somewhere, and passing an argument. We can pass a simple string like hello, or we can pass an expression. That expression can be a call to another function like square of 2. Okay? So this is the basics of functions. Again, later in the course, we have a comprehensive section about functions. For now, all I want you to take away is that a function is a set of statements that either performs a task or calculates and returns a value. A real-world application is essentially a collection of hundreds or thousands of functions working together to provide the functionality of that application.